In the next few examples, we want to take those ideas, those patterns that we've established, start applying them to some context, some contextual sets of data to answer some questions about what those patterns mean. What information is it telling us? In example 3, we're given a scatter plot that depicts the number of faculty and students at several colleges. We want to describe the type of association seen in the scatter plot and interpret the meaning of that relationship. Again, we want to read the graph from left to right and see if we find any discernible pattern. In this case, we could sketch a line. Through those points, we see a pretty strong positive association. That pattern is increasing. Our y values are getting larger as we read the graph from left to right. So we would call this a strong positive association. It's positive because that pattern is increasing, or the two values increase together. And what we could say is that as the number of faculty increases, the number of students also increases. And that's a pattern that we would probably expect. If we have more students, the college is getting larger, there are more faculty members. If you identify a college that has a lot of faculty members, it probably has more students because it's a larger school. But the nature of this positive association works in both directions. So the positive association tells us that both variables are changing in the same direction. So there's another statement that we could make here that would be equally accurate based off the information that we have. And that is that as the number of faculty decreases, the number of students also decreases. So that just gets at the idea of which way we're reading the graph. If we read it from left to right, we see both variables increasing together. If we read the graph from right to left, so read it backwards, we see a decreasing pattern, but both variables are changing in the same direction. X is getting smaller, Y is getting smaller. So both of these statements are accurate relative to the data, and it's important to recognize when we talk about that positive association, it means the variables are changing in the same direction, both increasing or both decreasing. That will be different than what we see in example 4. In example 4, this depicts the average work commute time and population with children under 18 in millions for different regions. As we look at this graph, we can see a strong negative association because we have that decreasing pattern as we read from left to right. So if we have a decreasing pattern as we read from left to right, that's a negative association, but the points follow pretty close to that straight line pattern, so we have a strong association, which tells us as the average commute time increases, so as our x variable increases, the population with children under 18 follows the opposite behavior, because as we read from left to right, x is increasing but y is decreasing. So these two variables change in the opposite direction. As one increases, the other decreases. Or we could flip that around and we could say that as commute time decreases, population with children under 18 increases. So that's, again, if we read that graph backwards from right to left. But what's important to note is that when we talk about the type of association, if the association is negative, then those two variables change in an opposite manner. If one is increasing, the other is decreasing, and vice versa. In example 5, we have a scatter plot that depicts the number of ghost and UFO sightings in different regions. We want to describe the type of association seen and interpret the meaning of that relationship. In this case, there's no real straight line increasing or decreasing pattern that the data follows as we read from left to right. So we would say there's no association. Meaning that as the number of ghost sightings increases, the number of UFO sightings does not follow a discernible pattern. Which is just one of a variety of ways we can say that it doesn't matter whether ghost sightings are increasing or decreasing. There's no clear connection to what's happening with UFO sightings. There's no relationship between the two variables. And again, this would be the case where there's no association versus a negative association where the variables where the variables change in opposite directions, and a positive association where the variables are changing in the same direction. Regardless of whether it's increasing or decreasing, they're changing in the same way.